bad boy. I believe in land. I believe in land.
Hi, I'm Michael Mulida, Director of Green Days by the River and a graduate of UWI.St. Augustine Film Program. So check us out.
Hi, good morning, everyone. We do apologize again for the late start. Thank you for joining us on our live stream. And this particular event is an immersive cinematic experience with filmmaker Peter Bailey, who is from the US Virgin Islands. So we're just going to do a series of introductions. And again, my rule here is just to apologize for our late start. But we're going to continue and move right into the program today. So we're going to introduce and invite our coordinator of the film program, Dr. Yao Ramesar, to say a few words before we begin.
I should have worn less squeaky shoes, but thanks for waiting. We are welcoming Peter Bailey, the illustrious documentary director from a cousin from the US Virgin Islands. And I want to say especially that we need to do this more, make it a habit where we converge with and collaborate with our fellow Caribbean citizens, neighbors, cousins. And welcome, Peter, and thanks so much. I want to acknowledge Dr. Susan Burke, Dr. Keith McNeil, who have a major hand in this, and of course, the indefatigable Ms. Lynessa Pass, who is the main mover and shaker at our end. So, a few indulgences. The US Virgin Islands. Oh, Peter is also part Trini, parentage. So, you know how we roll. So I just want to say, I'm really happy that this is happening. And again, let's look forward, and we'll be bringing things from throughout the Caribbean again, because we really need to get to know and bridge all of these the islands and territories in the archipelago, Guyana, as a normal thing. University of the West Indies, it's a regional scene. One UWI, one Caribbean. Dick? And if fate had turned out differently, I might have married Miss US Virgin Islands back in the late 1980s. But you know, I'm just saying it's a small world. Anyway, without much further ado, I want to just thank also Film TT, who have practically taken up residency, and we're encouraging that. So over to Dr. Susan Burke, head of the LCCS at the UWI, Faculty of Humanities and Education.
Thanks so much, Yao. Good morning, students. I know we have students from Hillview College and Trinity East in the house. Yes? Welcome. It's so lovely to see you here. And on behalf of the Department of Literary, Cultural, and Communication Studies, I want to issue and welcome, and I hope you have a really engaging experience today. I am very, very happy to see this. When I started thinking about what my career would be and studying the creative and cultural industries, my master's was actually on that many, many, many years ago. People wanted to know what are you going to do with that? You know, so it was very path-breaking at the time, but I'm really, excited to see so many of you at your age thinking about a career in the creative and cultural industries. Yeah, so I want to salute you for making that choice. And as our country talks a lot about diversification, we've been hearing this for 40 years now, but the more of you that actually show that it is possible to do to have a fulfilling career. And the key word there is fulfilling career in the arts. So not where necessarily you think the money is, but where your passion is. And once your passion is there, the money will come. Don't take what people tell you. Well, this is where the money is. Yeah? And sometimes I think this is the challenge with our society. People go where they think the money is, and this is why we have poor services in the health sector, in the education sector, and so on, yeah? In the legal sector. So do what your heart tells you, your heart and your head, and the money will come eventually. So I want to congratulate you on making this choice. I also want to salute my colleagues in the film unit and my colleagues in the film TT. One of the things that we're trying to do more at the university is collaborate. So, and of course with the schools, because we understand that this sector, for this sector to sustain, we have to collaborate. We can't operate in silos anymore. So the school system, the education system at the tertiary and the secondary level, working with industry and working with government, is where it is at. So this event today is an example of what is possible when we work together. Yeah? And that's how it's going to be. And the other thing I want to say before passing over to our keynote is that we have to, a mentor of mine who is now passed over, his name is Rex Nettleford. Any of you know who Rex Nettleford is? Have you ever heard of Rex Nettleford? Right. So there's something, an entity called the National Dance Company of Jamaica, right? And he developed a model almost for the performing arts and for people to excel in the arts. And he said to me, as Caribbean people, we have to be polyglots. And I kind of went, what does that mean? And it means that you have to be able to do many things well. Because of our size, because of our networks, because of our particular conditions, we have to be able to do many things well. And I think Peter's career is a testimony. So he started off as a journalist, right, and ended up doing film. And I was sitting at the sidelines listening to the photography and filmmaking program at Hillview. So you have to be able to do many things well. So even if your interest is in film, you need to be able to write, you need to be able to speak, of course. So this career allows you to do many things well. And for instance, at our department, there are 3 sections. There's a section in cultural studies, which both Lynn, Ms. Parks, and Dr. Ramasa have participated in. So we look at culture, but we also have communication studies because we understand that what's the sense of being able or being aware of your culture if you can't communicate about it? Right? And then we have literatures in English. So the expression, the written expression, the text, the written text is also an important part of what you do. So I implore you to take this in. You are very, lucky to be able to have this experience. And to, the teachers, we want to thank the teachers, Danielle and Elsa, for bringing you here. And, keep on trying to expand your horizons in the arts, because the arts are really the true expression of who we are as a people. So without further ado, I want to pass on to Peter, and of course Peter is going to tell you about himself a little bit, but just to say, again, he's a son of the soil, Caribbean by birth, and once you're Caribbean, it don't matter where you live in, We have a thing, once you eat the cascadoo, so hopefully you'll eat some cascadoo over the next couple of days, so you're going to come back. But again, where you start is not where you're going to end up, right? So started off as a journalist, ended up as a filmmaker. All of his work has been featured in things that we see on TV, CW, NBC, ABC, Fox. So, he's well represented there. And it shows you what is possible when you dream, but not only when you dream, when you work hard. So passion has to converge with hard work. Yes? So it is our distinct pleasure to have you here. We hope it's not the first time. We hope you come back and we continue these kinds of collaborations. So folks, that's it for me. Thanks very much. Enjoy your session.
How's everybody? Everybody stand up, man. Stand up, stand up, stand up. I don't like a boring crowd, man. I came to Trinidad. I want to. Everybody good? All right, let's shake it off. Let's shake it off. Shake it off. Come on now. All right, you can sit down now. Get the blood curling. So I'm Peter Bailey, and I'd like to thank Dr. Keith McNeil, Dr. Susan Burke, Miss Lynn Parker, and Dr. Remisser. As Ms. Burke said, I became a storyteller. I like the word storyteller because it crosses genres. Life is a story. Life is essentially a story. And I think when I was growing up in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, I always felt invisible. I always felt that I didn't see myself. I didn't see people that sounded like me or shared my emotions and sensibilities on the TV screen or in books or in magazines. So I grew up in a part of the Virgin Islands I'm sure Trinidad is the same way. It can be very classist. You have different sectors of the community. And the part of the Virgin Islands I was from, I felt it was a little bit disenfranchised. But I wasn't a wealthy kid. I didn't come from a wealthy family. So how can you change the course of society? Through words, through clarity, through understanding, through telling stories. So I went to the University of Delaware. After that, I went to Time Magazine, and I went to Newsweek Magazine, then Time Magazine. And then I got tired of New York City. It was cold, it was a concrete jungle. I wanted to be around Caribbean people. So I moved on to Miami, and I started writing for the Miami Herald. And then Trick Daddy, the rapper, called. He's like, I'm a fan of your work. I'm like, bro, you read? And he said, yeah, I read everything you write. So I went on the road with him. I wrote his book, his life story. The New York Times gave it a great review. But while at the Miami Herald, once again, I'm writing stories, but I'm not seeing myself represented. And if I was seeing myself, I was in handcuffs, I was a thug, I was a killer, I was everything but an honorable, upstanding human being, the way black people are portrayed in US media and film, sadly. So I said, I want to do something about this. So I talked to Trick. I said, I'm going to do this nightcap show. I'm going to start interviewing different artists and different entertainers and telling another story of who they are. It did very well. The book did very well. And then I would go home to the Caribbean to connect with kids, just like, not kids, I don't like calling you guys kids, young adults. And the hurricanes hit. And I like to say the second chapter of my life started. So we're in these hurricanes, and I'm from the US, right? The Virgin Islands, as I think. And it was like apocalyptic. And what happened next, we were just ignored. And I was very upset. I was angry. But in life, there's two things you could do when your back is against the wall. You could throw your hands up and implode, or you can unearth a divine strength, right? Because in the worst of times, it's either gonna bring out the best in you or the worst in you. So I said, you know what? Instead of going crazy, let me take it upon me to tell our story. And that's how this series began. It began because I got sick and tired of the Caribbean itself being a caricature. When people close their eyes and they think of these islands, they think party, they think some rum, they think fun. I don't think they appreciate the soul and minds of who we are as a people. I think this, with Trinidad, VS Naipu, these are great lands. And I appreciate what Dr. Remisser said, I'm pronouncing it right. I don't believe in different islands. I'm not gonna let the people who colonize these islands separate us. I think it's just one Caribbean, different flavors, different accents. And before you see the trailer for the first film, I want everybody to do one thing. If you have a pen and paper, your phone, write down why you're here. Just privately, honestly. It could be because I was forced to come, because I didn't want to be in class. Just write down why you're here, please. Please, everybody, professors to everybody, adults, everybody. Please just write down why you're here, please. And be very honest, be brutally honest. It could be because you're bored, You want to get out of class, or you have a passion for this? Please. Don't think about it too much, because in art, you just let your spirit move. Don't. It gets very artificial when you start overthinking. Just whatever comes to your mind when I say why you're here, write it down. Are we done? I asked you that question because life is a story. And when Professor Burke was speaking about film program and whatnot, I think the problem with a lot of people, they don't know their why. They don't know why, they're just moving through life. They're just floating. And when you don't know your why, you get led, right? Mr. Yawning, what's your why? Is it because you were tired, you don't want to come to school today? I caught you yawning, bro. You're like, So why you here?
I wanted a reason to turn my stories into films.
What stories are these?
Just things that, like, experiences that I've had, and just things I think would really captivate the audience and people like me, and help them through tough times too.
I like that. I like that. So I'll tell you guys this. I found my why. It might sound all spiritual, what you want to call it, but I do believe I was born to tell these stories. I really believe this is what I was born to do. So as you wrote that down, you can keep it to yourself, but I put you on the spot, and leave here and think about that really long and hard. Because your answer to that question is going to dictate where you are 10 years from now. I assure you of that. Your answer to why you are here, why you wake up in the morning, why you're doing what you're doing is going to depend on where you are 10 years from now. So I'm going to be quiet now. You're going to see a segment of the first trailer, I believe, and I'll be back up.
That monster hurricane, the strongest ever on record in the Atlantic Ocean.
Hurricane Irma ripping through the Caribbean, bringing death and destruction and leaving thousands homeless. Almost 1 million people are still without power.
Hurricane survivors in the U.S. Virgin Islands describe the devastation there as apocalyptic.
The Virgin Islands overall have been largely forgotten in the wall-to-wall U.S. media coverage of the storm.
Residents of the U.S. Virgin Islands are upset with President Trump following updates that he has no plans to visit after the destruction of both Hurricane Irma and Maria.
I met with the president of the Virgin Islands.
He is the president of the Virgin Islands.
So scouring the internet this morning while drinking my coffee like I usually do, I came across an article that really resonated and really stuck with me. It is an op-ed in the New York Times today. It's called, "Has America Forgotten the Virgin Islands?"
Peter Bailey, a journalist based here in Miami, sent us this video from St. Thomas where he's looking after his elderly parents, and they've now survived 2 Cat 5 hurricanes.
We're alive after going through 2 Category 5 storms. When Maria beat you down, what was going through your mind?
Not this again. I was scared.
I think it became very, very surreal. Not having that one thing that was great.
In the name of Jesus, you gotta do something about this storm.
How do people recover from this? How do people recover from such devastation? And the mainland U.S. was like, life as usual.
I woke up to anything, 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 anything. Give you all I ever wanna do. Yeah, I woke up to anything, 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 anything.
Nobody was paying attention to us at all. I figured out that actually I was supposed to be here during those storms to share our stories. Standing in that storm, I pray to God
You allow me to live, I live my purpose. You have a lot more strength than you even know you do.
We have a vibrant history. We have a story to tell.
It's time for us to live our dream and write our story. And I think it's a magnificent story.
What did you feel seeing? Talk. Somebody's. I didn't just come here to talk to you guys. What do you feel about it? What did you feel about the trail? What you got? What did you gather from it? You. Stand up, man. What's your name, boss? Joash. Who? Joash. What you thought? What you gather? What else? Who else? What's your name, boss? Nathan.
So I got a lot of emotion from the film. I can feel the hurt of the people, especially in some of the clips. You get to see devastation. You get to hear the impact that it had on them. I actually visited the Virgin Islands right before the hurricane hit. When I went to visit some family there, and I sent pictures and videos of the devastation that happened, and it was terrible. So I'm really glad that you're doing, that you did the film on it, and highlight these serious problems in it. You also a really good actor as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Who else? Young lady in the back. You. What's your name? Zoe. I like that. Who else? What's your name? Kia.
In the trailer, I can hear the passion you have for this topic, especially when talented, the feelings of being forgotten by, well, the bigger name. And seeing you bring to life, like what is happening, not necessarily covering, like probably sugarcoating one way or another, but to see the reality, see how people felt about it, the thing and everything. And your willingness to bring that to the light when they thought they may not have had that light is really commendable, I must say. Well, people didn't know and people didn't care, so you have to bring that to the forefront for people to understand.
I think what you said was very important, and what you said is very important. Like I said earlier, I think in these islands, historically, we are very dependent, right, on everything else. We're very dependent. So how are we going to create our story, right? How are we going to say as Caribbean people, and it's up to you guys, because, you know, I was telling Dr. McNeil, when I make my art, if people over 25 and older like it, great. But honestly, you done lived your life. The future is actually in your hands. That's the truth. I mean, every day you guys get up, you're writing this new world. You look at social media. When I started as a journalist, Time Magazine, I couldn't just write a story and get it out there. I had to go to some guy named Bob from Tennessee somewhere, and I had to fight to him, and this is why this is important. This is why this is important. You guys don't have to do that. You guys don't have to do that. So I want to ask you guys, since you have this medium of social media to tell your stories, how are you guys using that tool? You. Yes, ma'am, you. Yes. Yes. Or are you interested in that? How do you feel social media either enhances our ability to share our story or doesn't?
Open to everybody. Take Instagram, for example. Instagram, you have the option to keep your profile private for who you allow to see it for public. If you want to get your story out there, you would have it on public. So that just opens up a market to everybody across the world to see what you have to do and to show your story. So you can use that to your advantage.
How many people in here have an Instagram? That's pretty much everybody. So I want to ask a question. What do you guys think the real reasoning or the reasoning behind this is? Because you guys are on TikTok doing all kind of craziness. Not you guys, but why do you think really and truly the essence of these tools are for? What do you think it's really for? Anybody? What do you think it's really for? I don't have the answer. I'm asking you guys. Somebody. Lady. What's your name? Candria.
I believe that is for people from around the world to connect and to share and to be able to build communities of people that they relate to, and also to make things mainstream to other places as well.
Mainstream. That's a very important topic as a storyteller, right? What is mainstream? When you think mainstream, Professor, Dr. McNeil, when we say mainstream, what is mainstream? Most popular. What else? What's mainstream? I got a little controversial concept. I don't think mainstream even exists. What is mainstream, right? That's why you took so long to answer it. Who decides what? You? Curated? Oh, I like that. Gotta write that one down. I just learned something new. Curated focus. But, okay, so are we mainstream? As Caribbean people, do you think our stories are mainstream? Why is that? Why you don't think our stories are mainstream? Somebody who should. That's true. I get to Jamaica a lot. I'd be like, no, I'm VI, I'm not from Jamaica. I'm not a Jamaican. I love Jamaica, but I'm not. There are more islands. Who else? Who else? Why are we not mainstream? Why are we just these people floating in the Caribbean, just, I don't know, hanging out on the beach? You. Somebody. Somebody. Yeah.
I think if people don't understand us or know anything, the thing about social media is that people are quick to dismiss and stay on what they know, what they're comfortable with, even though there's so much connection, so much stories being told. But people still don't want to step out of their comfort to learn something, even happy as they are. And that puts us in a kind of gray area that we need to push ourselves out of.
That's very powerful. In other words, we think, right, that we have this tool that we could connect to all kind of different people with diverse opinions, but young man, you're correct. Studies have shown most people go on the internet and just gravitate to who they agree with. So basically, they're not pushing their comfort zone. So once again, I said you guys are the future of Trinidad. What do you guys think in Trinidad, a story that needs to be told that's not being told? That could help with us not being invisible. You're not going to get in trouble. Come on. Honestly. What issue right now in Trinidad needs to be told in your voice? Somebody has to know. Trinidad ain't a perfect country. Come on now. What's an issue you guys as future storytellers and filmmakers wants to see highlighted and taken globally? Crime and violence. Crime and violence. Would you agree? Now, let's think about it. How do we deal with the issue of crime and violence? So when I make my movies, you know, you have leaders, you have the political leaders. Well, Peter, don't make us look too bad. Don't make us look too bad. But what is making us look bad? Is truth making us look bad? Young lady. No, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the young lady right there. Yes, ma'am. Being balanced, being balanced, being balanced. What else? What else? Okay, case in point, let's think of something very topical. We were having breakfast this morning, and a Canadian visitor to Trinidad, she told me in a very awkward way, she was like, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." "You're a filmmaker, right? I don't know how to ask this, but why during Carnival the women are naked?" She's like, oh my, I was just a little bit taken aback by the, oh, now everybody looking up. Now everybody looking up. Now everybody looking up. What do you guys think about Carnival? Tell me. Tell me. Do you think the entirety of Carnival and its story is being told? Be honest with me. So when you, okay, be fair. When the world sees the representation of Carnival, which I believe is arguably Trinidad's most important export, right? Most popular export. What do you think people think of Trinidad when they see Carnival?
Sexualized sense of the costumes that the women wear, what the men wear, the activities of the show. It never really stopped to sit down and consider the history of why Carnival became.
Who else? Is he correct? Is he correct? He's correct? So that's all of your assignments. I want all of you guys to create in a written story, in a short doc, in a video, in TikTok, whatever. Use that tool to basically say, you know what? This is what Carnival is. Because I want to know. You know, I want to, when the tourist told me that, I was like, and I'm sitting there, and she says, I felt so disrespected. These girls were just naked and So do you think if the history of Carnival and the backstory was told, do you think there will be a greater appreciation?
Rather than specifically what she's talking about. Because I personally don't know like why hospitality they are recently, but I do know the history of certain things like food massage.
Can someone tell me the history? Do you know the full history behind it? Oh, please.
It's very funny you brought up Carnival because currently for my SB, that's what I'm censoring on. And I can say from an experience I have, because you usually has old masking. And with the old mask, you'll see more historical aspects of Carnival, so you do Baby Dawn, Del Marine, and you see the story and the background and the history of those things. And even the attendance to that, even though it's really good, is not as highlighted in the country anymore. So if they go into primary schools and stuff like that, they might know the big names, but they might not know the stories behind them. So what I'm planning to do with my SBA is to carry on that story for children to understand that, well, hey, this is our history, and even though the feathers and the soca is nice, it actually has a reason and a way we got to there. So that is something that I would like to put out if we continue with the whole line of storytelling. That is something that I am trying to push out into the world this week.
And I'm going to become your biggest fan if you do it. Your biggest fan. Before we show 2.0, anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Please, anyone else? Well, we're going to show 2.0, I believe. We have the film, and enjoy. And so this film, basically, the first film, like I said, was about resilience. This second film, a lot of what we just discussed is highlighting the second film. It's basically saying we're in this shift in the Caribbean. We have to innovate. We have to go in the modern world. But how do we? Because like I said, in my work, I ask questions. I don't really, as an artist, as a creator, please, when you go into the storytelling process, do not have a bias. It's a very humbling experience. One of the biggest mistakes storytellers make is before they even go to begin the storytelling process, they have a preconceived notion. They have a prejudice, and that's bias. You have to let the story tell itself. So every film I produce, any work of art I produce, I'm like this curious person with questions. I want answers. So I go into the process and I let people be them. I've interviewed people who I don't agree with. I remember I did a story for Time years ago. I had to visit Appalachia, and I'm with these racist people, and they're calling me every name out the book. And instead of getting offended, I just told a story. And I want you guys to understand, if anything you didn't hear, if you're gonna be an amazing storyteller, and you should, because life is a story. If you watch a movie, it's a story. If someone is selling you a product, they're selling you a story. They want you to buy into the story. So you have to let that story tell itself. The biggest mistake people make is they have their own biases and they infuse it into the story so truth cannot breathe. The purpose of truth, it has to live. It's like its own person. You have to free it. And I'm so happy you guys answered the question about Carnival. Honestly, I hope I didn't offend anybody, but it is something that is a pet peeve of mine because I travel. And when I travel, the idea of the Caribbean is just a party. And if a society is just viewed as a party, when there's why are we not ever invited to the seat of world affairs? They call us when it's a party. So I really believe an introduction to film, owning our stories and telling our stories will shift the narrative. And like I say, there's a renaissance. I think there's a Caribbean renaissance that's occurring. And I think it's you guys, because you guys came up in a society where you have tools now. You can't be silenced now. So please don't use it, but madness. Please, because you gotta think about it. 100 years from now, we're not gonna be here. So anything anyone knows of us is the trail we leave behind. So if a bomb drops, which it won't, what is the last thing you posted on social media? I hope it's not buffoonery, because that's gonna be your legacy to the rest of the world. When they're digging up the artifacts, they're gonna see you, I don't know, mooning somebody. Is that the representation you want of our civilization? So please look at these tools. It's your legacy. You're writing your history. Years ago, history was not written in real time. We're doing this live, right? So we're recording history in real time. So let's record the best of ourselves. And that's what I pursue to do. We're not perfect people, but as a storyteller, you could put your lens on anything. Negativity is an easy lens. The hardest art to become successful at is pure, righteous, positive art. Because the human mind, it's easier. Shock value is easier. It's easier. Oh my, what just happened? But guess what? That type of content, it's soulless. You gotta keep looking for more shock value. You gotta keep feeding this beast. So please, I want you guys to understand, social media, TikTok, Instagram, you're filmmakers. I don't know if you know it, but when you post a video, that's a form of visual storytelling. So please look at it from that light. You are all story. If you have an Instagram account, you're storytelling. Okay? So I'm gonna be quiet now and watch the film.
connect with nature, when we coexist with nature, we coexist with our surroundings. You know?
love this land too bad, boy. I believe in land. I believe in land.
Hi, I'm Michael Muliga, Director of Green Days by the River and a graduate of UWI.Film program. So check us out.
land too, bad boy. I believe in land. I believe in land.
Hi, I'm Michael Mulliga, Director of Green Days by the River and a graduate of UWI.Film Film Program. So check us out.
I believe in land.
Hi, I'm Michael Muliga, Director of Green Days by the River and a graduate of UWI.St. Augustine Film Program. So check us out.
So, you guys saw the presentation. You said you enjoyed it, so what you guys think? What you think? Questions? Yes.
It wasn't focused on what you did to recover, it was focused on the spirit of the people. And that hit. The fact that it was focused on the spirits of the people and your mindsets, it was contagious in a sense, because it was not just limited to the Virgin Islands, it was a Caribbean thing, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to value your review more than New York Times. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, that was polite. Ladies first, that was polite.
Hi, good day. So,
yes.
I asked around for BATC sixth form the questions they would have, so I would say everybody questions now.
Yeah.
So the first question we have is, how did you find your own style of design since they want to find this?
So how did I?
Find your own style of design.
Of storytelling?
Yes.
Great question. I think because earlier I said, being from the Caribbean, I never saw our story told like independently. If you look at storytelling in the mainstream, if you're a Caribbean person, we usually have to find, they fit us in somewhere. Like if it's a narrative, it's a Hollywood flick, if it's a TV series, if it is I remember being a child growing up, and I used to be excited when I saw a Caribbean person in the film. But every time we were in the film, it was to make fun of our accent. You were like the cool creature. So with this work, my style, the style was really created from that sense of feeling that our story was always invisible. So this body of work, it's non-conventional because I think all of you in here, UWI's film program, all of us in here are pioneering something, right? Because we're really creating something. So even with you guys giving me this feedback, you guys are helping me to create my style. So my style is really dependent upon, like I said, I never go into the creative process with an agenda. If you have an agenda, you're cheating life. Because life has a story. We're here to capture the story. So my style is usually very, as you can tell, it's personal. It's sentimental. I tend to get very attached to the people and the places I write or film. And it's just a style that's based on wanting to be understood. I want us to be understood. I want to be understood. You know, being a 6'8" black man in America, you play basketball, you know, so my whole life has been disruptive of what people are saying I should be. So the body of work is to make sure that I'm narrating my own story, if that makes sense. Does it?
Yeah, cool. Thank you. That was really helpful. And the second question is, what is the biggest challenges you faced during the making of the film?
Great question. If you look at it, my mother is in the film. My father is in the film. So this body of work, I won't say I'm not open to criticism, but this body of work is really, great question. Difficulties, breaking down stereotypes. Breaking down stereotypes. When you think about our story, it's never told that we are people, right? So it's navigating Hollywood and navigating distribution that is saying, no, we have an idea of who you people are. But now I'm bringing something totally different. And it can be very isolating. It can be very isolating because we live in a society where, because of social media, sadly, very few people are original anymore. It's a trend culture. It's trendy. Okay, they're doing this. That's popping on IG, on TikTok. We're going to do that too. But you're cheating yourself because only you could be you. You can't be anything else. Only you could be you. So the fear of creating art in a global society where we're all in groupthink, it's trying to, how do you stay original to your divine thoughts and your divine art? So I tend not to watch a lot of TV. I don't make films. I don't really watch a lot of TV. I try to keep, the hardest thing to me today as a creator of anything is staying in your truth. because you have so many influences. You pick up your phone, oh, such and such did it. So it's how do you stay there? And I think you stay there from having a real love for the people and the subjects that you are writing about. You know, and the hardest thing for me is making sure you guys receive it. If you create something and you think it's amazing, but it's not serving a purpose for the people viewing it, you haven't done your job. Being an artist and a creator is a service thing. It's actually humbling. If people think it's glamorous, no, you're a vessel. You're a tool of the divine will to express a story and capture people's stories. So the hardest thing for me is to make sure that I am doing justice to the people's story that I'm sharing, really. It's very important to me.
My question is, what is the intention of you using different filters in your film?
Of using?
Different filters in your film.
Filters?
Yeah, like.
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, I have a great team. Sebastian Prudent, my cinematographer, is Haitian. And we were going through the different looks. And that the one way is that vintage look. I was like, what are you doing? And he said, Peter, you keep talking about old versus new, technology versus old. So we wanted that vintage feel for going to have a nostalgic. Because if you look at the film, all these films, is really, I'm torn. If you really watch that movie, I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm saying I'm worried. I'm saying I'm worried because I'm saying we might disappear as a civilization. After the hurricanes, we had so many people leave the Virgin Islands. So the fabric of the culture, the fabric of the tone, I'm sure Trinidad is facing the same thing. The whole world is facing a gentrification. So my work is like an alarm that's going off. So the vintage filters you see is to evoke a sense of memory and longing for the past, if that makes sense.
It does, yes. Why were you in the Virgin Islands during the hurricane?
God. God has a way of, fate and divine will has a way of playing itself out. I do this a lot in the Virgin Islands. I like to connect with young people because I think you guys are still pure to some degree. You know, when you become an adult, you're born into the world happy and innocent to everything. Everything is love. Then you become an adult, you go through some heartbreaks, your business, you go through swindles, thieves, and different things. And innocence is very important to me, if that answers the question.
Have you ever done films focused on other Caribbean?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't answer the question, I was rambling. No, you asked what I was doing in the Virgin Islands. I was speaking at a school, a high school, just like this. And I decided to stay because we're accustomed to hurricanes in the Virgin Islands. You know, we're in Hurricane Alley. I've been in 12 hurricanes. There's a family joke that they follow me. One of my first articles as a writer at Time Magazine was about how hurricanes got their name. So me and hurricanes have this love affair thing going. I was just in Puerto Rico. Ian came while I was there. Then I went to Florida. It followed me. So I was down there speaking to some young people. And I decided to stay because, you know, hurricane is wind. It's like a hurricane party. You hang out. And that's not what happened. So that's how I ended up there. And I believe I was supposed to be there because I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But if you think about it in that region, journalistically, my credentials, who else is going to do it? If I didn't do it, who else is going to do it? So I think I was there to divine purpose. That's how I feel.
Have you done any films focused on other Caribbean countries? And if not, would you be interested to?
Oh, yes. The first film from this series is called The Anguilla Connection. This is actually, the one you saw is the third film. So the vision for Paradise Discovered was to capture the story of each island in the Eastern Caribbean that was affected by Irma Maria. So it was us, USVI, British VI, Anguilla. That's where my mother's from. So it's named, I look at these films as I'm telling our history, my family's history. So I went back to my mother's roots because she's very dear to me because she moved to St. Thomas for a better life. Like a lot of Caribbean people. She was a maid and she moved to work as a maid, and my father, and he moved from Trinidad. He was poor and he left for a better life too. So I started in Anguilla, basically. So the first film is in Anguilla. And the next film, we want to go St. Martin, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Lucia, and Dominica. And I would love to do something in Trinidad eventually, because this is my home too.
That's good. One of our students wanted to say that they love your mom.
You said what?
They love your mom.
Mommy, you hear that? Everybody love you. You're stealing the show. She's a sweetheart.
The other question is, do you think we can find a balance between human interaction and social media?
What a brilliant question. Can we find a balance between technology and human interaction? Well, man created the machine, right? So I think the problem today is what I see. The machines are beginning to run us. You go out, no one talks anymore. Everyone is looking down. They don't. So I fear that we're being controlled by algorithms. But in its purest form, if we control and harness technology for what it's for, it's a tool to enhance who we already are. But would I ever like to live in a world where we are no longer connecting? No. And that's why for this film, I'm thinking about doing something bold and only releasing it in theaters instead of going streaming before I go to streaming, because I like this. We're not supposed to be in some silo in a room on the internet all day, man. That's not life. Now, technology is important because because of it, I'm here, right? If without technology, I could not have shared our story. So you just have to understand the human will is the hierarchy first, and everything else is a tool. Technology is a tool. It should not replace the essence of us. Is there a balance? Can we find a balance if we look at it that way? But my fear is, in the film, I think Sidney Paul said, when she said it, I cringed a little bit, but she was right, for the RT Park, because the RT Park is a supporter of this project, and that's the issues we're having in the Virgin Islands. We're trying to innovate, become this tech hub, and people like myself and earthy folks are like, but I like this. But I don't have the answer for that. I don't know. I think our future as a civilization is going to depend on answering that question, to be honest.
Can you give some insight to the film industry so we can have an idea of what we're getting ourselves into?
We were having a discussion earlier. You know, I'm traditionally Caribbean, so when you grow up in the islands, you either go to college to be a doctor, engineer, accountant, so you can make some money. But I had to follow my purpose. And the film industry, it's tough. I'm not going to sit here and sell you a dream. But I think the way to navigate it is to stay true to the story. And I think if you tapped into the purpose of the story, because that's what happened with my first film, the first Unbreakable film. I self-financed it because I couldn't get support. And the people took it to the top, right? That's how I always do my business with films and everything. I'm not the guy who creates a pilot and a pitch and goes seeks out somebody. Can you give me an outlet? I'm not that guy. I'm actually, it's so interesting because the way I approach this is how now you guys have it at your fingertips, right? You guys don't have to go to a middleman, but it's gonna be a lot of work. I would say this, if you wanna be a great filmmaker, learn story first. I see a big problem today in filmmaking where, oh, we got this camera, it's the best camera, the shot is great, but there's no story. So to be a great filmmaker, you have to capture the story. And the film business, I don't even want you to contemplate that yet. Just focus on getting the story and purpose. And I'm gonna say something, I know where we are. And I know that when you think of being an artist in the Caribbean, an artist, you're gonna be a bum on the street starving? I'm not starving. But my point is, I think that film and art is just as important as everything else. You know, but it's a great life. Imagine capturing people's truth forever. It's not that you're immortalizing people. My mother is gonna forever be immortalized. The only industry I can do that is this industry. So, yeah.
How long did it take to film and process this work?
Each film, it's not the hard part of a film is never the process of the production. I love the interview. I love the creative stuff. Now, the editing, that's the different animal. You know, the editing, the researching, about a year from beginning to, with all the bureaucracy of what you gotta feel. Because being a filmmaker is you're managing a bunch of geniuses. Film is the only art form that captures all other art forms. If you're a musician, there's music in a film. There's writing in a film. There's photography in a film. There's, everything is so, what you have to do as a director, think about you got all these geniuses that think they're amazing and they're the greatest thing smoking, and we have to manage every mini genius and arrive at one collective vision. And that's why if you think about it, a director, a filmmaker, a developer, it's kind of the same. We're actually creating something together at the highest level. If that makes sense.
It does. How did digital media play a part in the production?
Saved my life. The internet has democratized influence. Now, if you get all technical with algorithms, this is different layers, but on the surface, like I said, as you saw in the film, my biggest issue was that the mainstream media ignored us. How else but the internet I was going to share this story? So you got the digital media. I think the online, digital, it's the new age liberator. It's the new, but it's how it's used. It's how it's used. I have this little theory maybe. I don't know the history of the internet, but whoever released it, I don't know if the power is there. It just has really democratized a lot of things if it's used right. So in this era, you are nothing as a creator. Take away filmmaking, business, whatever you do right now. You have to have an online presence. It's like I said, that balance. And I struggle with that. I really struggle with that. I would love to walk barefoot and hang out and just eat fruits all day. But I live in a modern world, so.
Did you do storyboarding in terms of the transitions?
Yeah. When you approach a film, always have an outline. Always have an outline, but it's never too in-depth. Because remember, I'm not trying to control you. If you're a documentarian, remember, this is not fiction. So when I'm interviewing you, I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. But I do have an outline that it's like a guide, like a roadmap. And then the interviews and the process fills in the gaps, if that makes sense.
And the last question is, do you have any advice to give us here who are future storytellers like yourself?
You are possibly the most important thing to save this planet. Because right now, truth is under attack. Right now, you can just go on the internet and say whatever. We saw that in the US in politics. So we are nothing without storytelling, even more severely here, because no one knows our story. How you live, I don't know about you guys. When I was growing up, whatever I saw or heard on TV, I just said, it's just what it is. So storytelling, I would admonish each one of you to be a storyteller, please. Please, our future is dependent upon that. Because if you don't tell your story, like I said in the other film, someone is going to write a story, and they're going to put you in their story. And most likely it's going to serve their purpose. So think about that. Think about that, if that answers the question.
Thank you for listening and answering our questions. We've really appreciated.
Thank you. Brilliant questions, by the way. Who else? This young man was going on. And please say your name again. I gotta get everybody's name. We're family now, you know.
My name is Nathan.
Nathan, yes.
So first off, in the film, you look just like LeBron James.
If I hear that one more time, you had to say it too? I came all the way to Trinidad to hear that? Okay, cool. He's a cool guy, so that's good. I don't mind looking.
Okay.
Everywhere. Get that everywhere. It's just everywhere.
Okay, so I loved how the way you structured the interviews. Everybody was just natural. Yeah. It didn't have any trying to put on a fake accent, to try and sound professional, and everybody was just there. I especially loved the where you sit around the table with your family and everybody is just there, and it's like a normal conversation just with a camera there, and nobody's even acknowledging the camera. You're just enjoying yourself, all talking, right? It was something that I've never really seen in that aspect, and those are real high-res, all talking and professional lighting and stuff. It was really amazing to see brought to life. So I really, really enjoyed watching that.
Thank you for that, because I don't know, I think that is exactly what I'm pursuing with these films. You asked about my style earlier. I sometimes get in trouble, not in trouble, but I want it raw. All I'm trying to do is be a tool and a vessel to showcase who we are. And that's why food is very important to us. You know, that's what we do. You sit around, you talk with your mother, the elders, and if you notice in the film, she speaks last always, because that's a cultural thing. We respect our elders. So if you notice in the film, the elders spoke last. So all of that is, I'm trying to capture us as authentically as possible. So thank you that you noticed that. Cool.
In the film, it was mentioned a bunch of times. What is a Jolly Biscuit?
A who?
Johnny Cake.
Oh, Johnny Cake is what you guys call a bake. We call it a Johnny Cake. Y'all call it bake, like bacon fish. We call it a Johnny Cake. But I think ours tastes a little bit better. No, ours is a little bit fluffy. But you know how Caribbean people are, right? It's the same food, but we gotta say no. We gotta call it something different. Right. So a Johnny Cake is in like Virgin Islands, St. Martin, and Grilla. We call it Johnny Cake. You guys call it a bake. Same, but it's the same thing.
I'll taste it and see.
But when you taste it, we're gonna see who. Yeah, fried bake. You guys call it a fried bake. Yeah, fried bake. Okay. Same thing. Yeah, fried bake. You guys, same. That's a Johnny Cake. Cool. That's a Johnny Cake. Yeah, fried bake. You're next. Yeah. What you said, man? Okay, what is it? No. Oh, this is cool. No, we eat the Johnny Cake. We use, but this is, you know why that's so important? You know why what she's saying is, and I like that question, because if you look at the film, food is how we're connected. Food history is a big part of defining who we are. Food, language, so that's what connects us. So no, we eat it with cheese, saltfish. Same thing. We just want to call it something different. That's all it is. Yeah, same thing. Just call it something different.
My next question is, well, not really a question, but I study history for Cape, right? And I did not learn
I was a history, in college, I was a history minor.
I didn't learn about the British Virgin Islands who come in the first, not the British, the U.S. Virgin Islands who come in the first freed colony.
You're talking about the revolution, right?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for asking that. That was very important for me to capture in the film. All respect to my Haitian people, because documented, they were the first that we ended. But yes, the first recorded successful slave insurrection in the New World was in St. John. Right. And it's an interesting story because it was you see, when they went over to Africa, there's this misnomer to think that it was nobody's, and first of all, everybody's a somebody. But the concept was they didn't realize some of those people were kings and warriors and trained royal people. So with the revolution, it was actually, I think it was an Akua tribe. Any historian, forgive me, but it was an Akua tribe. I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, but he was actually of royal blood. It was two of them, and they organized and wiped and kicked them out. Yeah, so it was, we are the site of the first recorded successful slave uprising in the New World, in the Western Hemisphere. And I think this is the first film to tell that. So I'm proud of that. Because I'll be fair, our tourism department, which is a big supporter, and the leaders and whatnot, over the years, there's this thing with the Virgin Islands, right? We're the dream, we're the vacation. Do we want the people to know that we also are a bunch of people that fight and threw them out? And I think for the first time in our history, we are realizing that our story and the natural beauty derived from our story is just as important as the beauty of the beaches. It's because I'll be honest, over the years, we really never wanted to focus on that story, thinking it would scare away the tourists, but guess what? The tourists actually appreciate knowing this history. It's very fascinating, yeah.
A kind of history going off sidetrack. I think it would have been like beneficial that you all didn't tell the story right away in terms of that we got freed immediately, let the international community know. You waited a while first, let Haiti have its thing. Then you could come out a little bit later so that the international community wouldn't do the dirty that they did Haiti onto you all.
And I think that's why they waited. Maybe that's why wow, you're brilliant. You know about the history of Haiti and making it an example because they wanted to show the world, us, that if you ever try to defy us, this is where you're going to be. So they try to make Haiti an example. So maybe you're right. Maybe our leaders were like, let's not let the world know that just yet. But we know we're revolutionaries. The Virgin Islands is rooted in fighting. It's Virgin Islanders, people have this concept with just this American possession. There's a reason why America wants us. If you look at the Virgin Islands, where it's positioned, St. Thomas at one time had the most profitable harbor in the Western Hemisphere. You know, Rockefeller bought St. John. Why is the richest man on the planet buying part of St. John? It's something there. So no, where revolution is in our DNA. It is. It's just that we're nice, but don't push us. Right. Like my mother said, Trinidad too. We're nice people, don't push us. So,
moving on to like the production setting. So I really enjoyed the cinematography of the film. One thing I always look for in films is cinematography. The Hardy's Fires, if I want to watch it or not, and it was spot on. I really, really love to watch it. All the different scenes with the sun and you see the ocean, crystal clear beaches. Drone shots, everything.
Thank my team for that. I'm not going to take credit for that. Thank my team for that. Thanks, Sebastian Prudent. Thank my team for that.
She already spoke about the vintage camera look.
Got you.
I was almost going to mention, but it was really interesting to see the transition between the two.
And that was very important for me, having a cinematography on the highest level. To answer your earlier question, when you are a Caribbean filmmaker, look, man, you're already up against a wall here. There's already a concept. What's the Bush guy doing films? So I already know, okay, going into this, my bar has to be so high. So that's why I told the team, guys, whatever we got to do, the best, make sure it's top tier. And to be fair, you might think, well, you need all this big fancy equipment. Yeah, we did. But also, we've done work just as great. It's about, and this is very important in filmmaking, it's still the person. It's not the camera. People always think, well, get a great cam, you're gonna get great shots. No, remember, it's an art. This is an art. So he just knows we had great equipment, but he's gifted in that light. He's gifted. And always, never take all the credit in life for something. Never. Everything you do is a team process. This school, the janitor is just as important as the dean. We all have a role to play. So my cinematographer, I gotta thank him for being great. Yeah.
I noticed even the lighting. A lot of films I've seen in Caribbean, the lighting is pretty dark because I don't know what goes on with the environment, but it's a pretty dark thing. The lighting in that film was really, really spot on.
It's important. Lighting in filmmaking is like, that's your paintbrush. Lighting, there's two things in filmmaking people don't understand. Audio is actually 50% of the process. You could have footage that's but if the audio is bad, it cheapens it. People will watch something that's not, but if they hear audio that's no. So fifth sound. So if you look at these films, I love music. I'm a writer, so melody, when you look at the films, I want you to feel it. So music and sound is very important to me, and lighting. So it's a marriage. Lighting is very important, and that's an art, man. Lighting it's another art. You got to learn this stuff. It's a process. And he's a master at it. He's a master.
I was actually going to ask about the music next. What was your thought process in going for that specific type of sound that you picked?
You know, I know we're the Caribbean and we love to jump up, but I'm a melodic dude. I'm a soulful guy. I like music that makes you think, and I love music. You know, I mean, I wrote a book with a rapper. I'm in the studio a lot around musicians. Writers and musicians were all kind of a little bit crazy, but all the same, it marries itself. So music was I wanted when because narration is very important to me too, because of my voice. So it has, my voice and the sound has to marry. And I always look for a sound that's not, you don't want to be like relevant, right in the middle. You know, very melodic. And the sound is very important to me in movies, very important to me, very important.
Last question is, what was the production budget like?
6 figures, I'll just say that. But that's still low budget. In Hollywood, $250 is still considered, that's considered like not low budget, but like mid-low budget. You know, so it costs, man, to do films. It costs. You hear that? Executives, it costs, you know, but the return is great. The return is great. But it's a risk. You could put out a certain amount of money and then you guys tell me, walk out of here. But it could about 6 figures for this one. Low 6 figures, but 6 figures, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's thank Mr. Bailey for being able to accommodate all of us today and seeing his film series, and for you guys all joining us. So we're just going to end our live stream here with this particular segment. Just a reminder that we are screening the Paradise Discovered series again this evening at 6 p.m.
That's
and the first part, Unbreakable Virgin Islanders, part 1 at 6 p.m. And part 2 will be tomorrow, which is Saturday at 5 p.m., Unbreakable Virgin Islands 2.0, as part of the Paradise Discovered series. Mr. Bailey will be here again for a question and answer session. These films will not be streamed. They are free and open to the public, so everyone is invited and welcome to come and look at the 2 films and then enjoy a Q&A after. Thank you all so much again for joining us, both of you, those of you who are online and in person. Again, this is the UWI.Film program. This initiative was in association with the Department of Literary, Cultural, and Communication Studies, as well as Film TT. We do thank all of our sponsors and collaborators for helping us with this event, and especially for the secondary schools, Bishop's Anstey East and Trinity East 6th Form, as well as Hillview College for joining us today. So thank you all, and that's it for us on the live stream.
I love this land too bad, boy. I believe in land. I believe in land.
Hi, I'm Michael Muliga, Director of Green Days by the River and a graduate of UWI St. Augustine Film Program. So check us out.